Rebecca Lucking, informative speech. If you've ever taken a long road trip, you know that hours in the car can be excruciating. You're probably thinking, what could possibly make this worse? Well, what if you were in a boat made of sticks, or walking through an unknown territory, unsure of what lies ahead, or what you were going to encounter? Nowadays, we'd never want to take a journey like that. Today, the idea of traveling 7,690 miles by boat would be doing the unthinkable. But in 1803, when Thomas Jefferson asked Meriwether Lewis and William Clark to take such a journey, they approached it with nothing short of unbelievable bravery and perseverance. Lewis and Clark's Corps of Discovery mapped water route across America, explored what is now the western United States, and documented many animals along the way. Behind me is a map of the journey of Lewis and Clark. They started in Missouri and traveled all the way to the Pacific Ocean. In 1803, Thomas Jefferson sent Lewis and Clark in their Corps of Discovery to find a water route across to the Pacific and explore the uncharted West. According to the National Geographic webpage, A Journey of Lewis and Clark, updated in 1996, he believed that woolly mammoths, erupting volcanoes, and a mountain of pure salt awaited them as they crossed the West. Unfortunately, the findings of their journey were a little different than Jefferson expected. The men set out on their journey on May 14, 1804, traveling down the Missouri River westward. November 7, 1805, the men sighted what they set out to find, and they couldn't have been happier. According to the original journals of Lewis and Clark expedition, written by Reuben Gold Watts in 2001, a journal entry from May 31, 1804, states William Clark wrote, "Ocean is in view. Oh, the joy!" The men were ecstatic about their findings. Although the men were excited about the water route they found, the journey was not an easy one. They encountered many Indian tribes along the way, some of which were welcoming their presence and others not so much. They were not worried about any smaller Indian tribes, but they were most worried about the Sioux tribe. They encountered the Yankton Sioux first, and they warned them of the harsher Taton Sioux up the river. They were right. Lewis and Clark found themselves face to face with the Taton Sioux. Behind me is a picture of the Sioux in their national headdresses. President Jefferson had hoped that Lewis and Clark would return with friendly relations with the Sioux, and they had a dream that they could maybe one day trade with them. But this dream was not going to be fulfilled. Anyone that knows anything about Lewis and Clark associates them with the Indian Sacagawea. Many believe that she was the navigator during their expedition, but actually she was an interpreter that did nothing but help communicate with other Indian tribes. She was only 17 when she joined their journey. In early May 1805, Lewis and Clark caught their first glimpse of the Rocky Mountains. Lewis was immediately fulfilled with excitement, but it soon faded when he realized that the land and river ahead was changing. Behind me is a view of the Rocky Mountains. The river was shallow and filled with pointy rocks. While they didn't know that this was just one small bump in their endless journey, the men soon found out that they'd have to portage a very long distance around the Great Falls. According to the National Geographic webpage, A Journey of Lewis and Clark, updated in 1996, it was the hardest physical part of the trip so far. More than a month would pass before their expedition around the Great Falls would be finished, onto one stretch of navigatable water. The Rockies were a huge find for Lewis and Clark. But even though that you would think that it was the biggest discovery they made, the 300 animal species they discovered was actually far greater. According to the Moosenboom website, Lewis and Clark's annual discoveries, updated in 2015, Lewis writes, "In the evening, we saw a brown or grizzly bear on the sand beach. It was larger than could have ever expected. It was the largest carnivorous animal I have ever seen, possibly weighing 500 pounds. Lewis also writes of a pack of prairie wolves, now known as prairie dogs, elk, mountain sheep, badgers, and a woodpecker. The woodpecker was thought to be the only living specimen that survived the expedition." Lewis and Clark wrote many journals during their voyage. In the book, The Original Journals of Lewis and Clark Expedition, written by Reuben Gold Watts in 2001, a journal entry from May 31, 1805, William Clark writes, "As we passed on, it seems that the scenes of many visionary enchantment would ever end. It was a beautiful expedition," he wrote. The journey of Lewis and Clark was no doubt one of the greatest ones of all time. They went through the great lengths to leap over unbelievable bounds and reach what they had wanted to achieve. They traveled to the Ohio River, the 2,540-mile stretch of the Missouri River, and the Yellowstone River, the Salmon River, Clearwater River, and Columbia Rivers. They crossed the Rockies and the Continental Divide. They reached the waters of the Pacific. Lewis and Clark and their team, the Corps of Discovery, were the first group to travel across the unknown West. Next time you're in a long car ride and you're thinking, wow, this could not get any worse, think of Lewis and Clark. Their expedition is one that changed everything. They discovered many large animals and changed all of America's perspective about it. 7,690 miles of an expedition that changed America.